So please welcome on the stage Mr. Maurice Grinberg. He's the director of HiLab.
So we realized that in Bulgaria, assistive devices based on eye gazing, for instance, and brain-computer interfaces were practically unknown in Bulgaria. And so we started inquiring what is done in Bulgaria, and found out that basically with respect to such high-tech technologies, high-tech assistive technologies, nothing has been done. And so this is the first boy who started using such a device based on our activity. Then we met Sasho Alexander, who is the first boy who started using such devices, eye-gaze devices in Bulgaria 9 years ago. He was the only boy, the only child in Bulgaria using it, and it was based on the initiative of Karin Dom and his parents. And up to now, it's only his parents that are taking care of what he's doing. So this is our most recent girl with disability. She's 6 years old. Her name is Anna. So she started using such a device 6 months ago. She also has cerebral palsy. And this is our most the person who has the most skills in using a computer. She's a writer and an actress. Her name is Angela Pejčeva, also with cerebral palsy. And this is probably the most famous person with disability who is using assistive technology. Stephen Hawking, who you know is responsible for a lot of knowledge about the universe, about the black holes, and he also nowadays is interested in artificial intelligence, so the impact of artificial intelligence on our lives. And all these people, what is specific for them is that they cannot use their bodies, but they have the cognitive capabilities of doing anything. I don't need to prove this for Stephen Hawking, but I can grant this for the children that I showed and Angela Pejčeva. And the problem for some of these people is the access to such devices. So what is the situation in the world? In general, 10 to 15% of the population on Earth has some form of disability. Fortunately, these disabilities are not always so severe as in the people I just shown you. But there are specific conditions and disease like cerebral palsy, autistic spectrum disorder, muscular dystrophies, and ALS, the Stephen Hawking's disease, which make people with extremely severe disabilities, some of them, so they cannot speak, they cannot use their hands, for instance using a computer, so they rely on assistive technologies. And basically 2% of the population has some of the diseases I just shown, and a part of them, so in Bulgaria there are about 145,000 people. Part of them are people who are with fully preserved capabilities, intellectual capabilities, and some of them are above the average, for sure. But of course, if they don't have access to such technologies, they cannot do anything. They cannot really develop with any respect. And so, what is done in terms of assistive technology nowadays? So, one expectation about eye prosthesis, so it is an artificial eye that will be based on the work of Schill and Nirenberg, who cracked the code between the retina of the eye and the brain. So the idea of this device is that you can replace the retina with the camera and then send signals to the brain that are understandable by the brain. The result being that you can really compensate 100% for some special kinds of blindness. So this is something important. More mundane devices that are refused today, not in Bulgaria, but in the world. So Bulgaria is probably an example of a country that is not developed enough. So part of the world is in this condition. So these devices are related to movements of the head, so it's not seen very well. So they can track a mouse just by moving your head. If you can do this and control your head. So this, for instance, is something that you can put in your mouth, and with your tongue you can type a text, or you can again control your cursor. So it is for control with the finger that you can move. So for some people it's just one finger that they can move, so it's important. And you have now so fashionable and famous brain-to-computer interface, which is advertised as transforming thoughts into text, but basically it's signal detection of the brain that is transformed in some movements or identification of some letters or arrows or whatever, or games that can be played. So this again is a kind of head movement tracking. So for people who cannot walk, you have the exoskeletons that are more and more developed. So this one is a result of the Mindwalker program, project of the University of Twente. So this specific exoskeleton is controlled by eye movements. So when you have your gaze oriented in one direction, you make a move in this direction, and also by brain-to-computer interaction, because the idea of people who have such severe disabilities that they cannot move in a kind of automatic way, they need to kind of formulate some commands by doing something that is detected by this interface. So these are other developments, cars for blind people, cameras, sensors that transform this information into information understandable by these people in a tactile way or a different way. And this is a kind of more recent advance in enhancing learning for people with learning disabilities. You can be informed of experts in some domain, measure their brain activity, and then stimulate in an appropriate way the brain of a novice, enhancing learning up to 30%, as these people claim. So you see that this technology is quite advanced, and there are people who have benefited of it. Although these people are not so many. So this is a famous example of Catherine Lemler. It's a person with similar cerebral palsy, similar physical disabilities. She cannot use her hand, she cannot speak. Still, she has a bachelor degree. Now, he's a master's student in special pedagogy. She has a site where she's consulting people with similar problems using eye tracking devices. So eye tracking is the most mature technology in the field. Eye tracking means that you have a simple device that follows the movements of your eyes, and you can use your eyes as a kind of mouse. And you see examples below. So here, this is the device that is mounted on the wheelchair, and she's just using her eyes in order to communicate with the people around. So for instance, she can type text that is pronounced by a text-to-speech synthesizer. So this is another famous example, Sarah Ezekiel. She has Stephen Hawking's disease. She is a painter, and after this disease she got paralyzed, but she's continuing to paint using software, and she's communicating with her family using, again, a kind of eye tracker, and she's typing text probably. I'm not sure that it is well seen here. And this is Angela Pencheva. She is ambassador of these technologies in Bulgaria for our NGO. She's an author of an autobiographical book. She wrote only with her left thumb, which she used in order to type. And she's also an actress, and is the first, to my knowledge, in the world of using eye tracking in acting. So this is a play that the New Bulgarian Theatre for People with Disabilities made based on her book, kind of postmodernist play. And here she's playing it with the well-known Bulgarian actress Yana Marinova. So you see the computer, so she's replying by generating some kind of speech using her computer. And here you can see how exactly it happens. It's a real video of her work. So you have here the eye tracker device following her eyes, and she's using e-learning site for high school in Bulgaria. She's in 9th grade of the system, although she's 49. She wants to finish her studies. So now she can do it by, so here you have a screen mouse. She's selecting, for instance, scrolling here or left click, and then she can apply this on the screen of the computer. So it is not very well seen, but in a moment it will be seen. You can see here, I don't know if you can recognize, it's a small weight, metal weight of 100 grams with a rope. So before she was using this weight for having key combinations. So if she wanted to make shift a letter or control something, she took with the left hand this weight and put it on shift, and then press the key. So it took her about 20 seconds of doing so. So she wrote her book in 3 years. So this is Alexander Sasho, who, as I said, is the first user. He's a gamer right now. He's still using such a device. And in this case, he's using some exercises in writing, difficult words with a lot of consonants. So the red spot is the gaze of Sasho. So he's selecting different, for instance, an object, a ball. It's pronounced. So he has to write it, and you'll see the red dot is where the gaze of Sasho is. So if the word is correct, he can check the word, and then the software requires if the spelling is correct. So he checks. Okay. And sorry. So this is Anna, but the video is not. Video is not running. Okay, so she started 6 months ago. Her mother has trained her, although she cannot use her hands. Her mother held her hand and used the tablet in order to play games with her. And it was sufficient for her to play with her eyes 10 minutes after she started with this device. So it turned out that she can write. She can write her name and she can count, and also use quite a complex interface to play games, of course. So we hope that next year she will go to standard school in Bulgaria. Okay, so all these examples show how important such technologies are for these people, and normally people would say, okay, this is very important for people to learn new things, to get their studies done, to achieve something in life or get a profession. But the most important right, it turns out, for these people is the right to communicate, especially to say no, to be informed about their options, to be able to take decisions, and to be able to share them with others. So in the States, there is a Bill of Rights for these people with all kind of obvious things for everybody. So nowadays, and we saw today some examples of how far technologies have gone. You have several projects about understanding of the brain, simulation of the brain by different groups, by different companies. You have also some fears about how robot will destroy the human race. So we have some attempts by Elon Musk and other people of making some direct interface between the brain of people and computers. And we have heard probably about Ray Kurzweil, who predicted the singularity point occurring in 20 years, less than 20 years. So it's a point when AI will be developed to such an extent that people will be able to merge with it, to have perfect health based on nanotechnologies and so on and so forth. And there are also several initiatives of simulating the whole human brain at the molecular level by 2050. So maybe they are too optimistic, but in general they show that the state of technology is very high and will become very high. So people are not very happy with this progress in general. So you know that many people have kind of formulated fear about what will happen with AI developing so fast. And a recent study showed that 60% of people are scary about it. And this fear is, of course, supported or expressed by some recent movies of AI becoming quite dangerous in different forms, transhumanist form, and also a real robot form. And so if we see these schedules, these predictions about the developments in the understanding of cognition of the brain and so on and so forth, and the usage of technology to substitute those, we can turn back to all the strategies that exist right now about people with disabilities. And you can see that years are very similar to the years where we expect the singularity point to occur. But in all these documents, including the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, don't explicitly mention AI, don't explicitly have plans about using AI for people with disabilities. And so all this is kind of related to the models of disability that exist in society, even in the most developed countries, starting from the very humiliating model of disability, so-called medical model of disability, where people with disabilities are considered to have a disease, to need a cure, to need a segregation in special institutions. So fortunately, this model is not official anymore, but 75% of the people have attitudes related to this model. So they pity people with disability, they think that their lives are lost completely, and so on and so forth. Although at institutional level this is not the case. So the social model of disabilities more or less turns everything around and says that disability is basically the barriers that society imposes to people with disability. So including access to transportation, access to buildings. And there are more moderate models nowadays that cover the bio, psycho, psychological and social aspects of disability in single complex models, including the human rights model of disability, who states that people with disabilities are like any other else and have exactly the same rights. But of course they need some kind of assistive technology. So the problem is, where is this technology in all these documents? And I would suggest that the solution of this problem would be with the next model of disability, a model that I would call a transhumanist model of disability. Because when some of these strategies were adopted some years ago, Ban Ki-moon, former Secretary General of UN, said, okay, our development is in front of us, we are confident they will succeed, and nobody will be left behind. So this nobody are the people with disability. So I would say that maybe it should be kind of changed, and the people with disability are not just not left behind, but are put in the center of the recent progress in AI. And all this is reflected in all the strategies for the future 10, 20 years, so that people can benefit from it, because the situation is really quite sad. And you can see that Stephen Hawking has some ideas about this, saying that people who are nowadays with superabilities one day will have superabilities. So these people, as I showed you some of them in Bulgaria, so this is Ani, Dieter, Alexander. What is their future? So what will they become in 10 years or in 20 years? So Ani will be 26 in 20 years. So will they be the first transhumans? So I would hope so. But this would require that all the companies that produce AI and virtual reality basically put these people in their focus. All this funded by governments that sign some nice strategies initiated by UN or the European Council, so that these people can really, after 20 years, be here among us with super abilities, so better than us. And I would say that this road to post-humanism is a kind of wise road, because these people probably will not like their consciousness to be uploaded in a machine, because they don't have the necessary funds or money for doing so. So that's all. Thank you for your attention.